Here we go with another random language profile. So roll the dice again. We look at these lists of languages, and I like to go to the list of language names. And note that these are native language names, they call them, endonymic glossonyms. That's a very fancy way of saying glossonyms, language names, endonymic, inside named, as in named inside the language itself. So these are the language names given by speakers of the language themselves. So I will close my eyes and page down for a bit, and let's look at the sea again. Okay. It's hard to tell how far down I'm going when I cover my eyes there. Now we have a major language, Croatian, okay, Croatian Sign Language. So that's major, I'll skip that one. Cupeño, language, has that cross. Does that mean that it is an extinct language? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of past tense here. It was spoken in California. But I want to do another one. Like we've already done another, we did a North American one last time, so I want to do a different one. Cypriot Arabic and Sign Language, that's another major language, or at least it's a dialect of a major language, Arabic. Then we have Czech, another major one. Ooh, okay, well, Dagur, this is suitable language. I feel like I want to get more range. You can see how I really keep bending this random rule, but I want to, we've done one African and one North American language, so I want to keep going. There's another African language. What's this? Dagur. A Mongolian language. So this is related to Mongolian, but it is distinct. So here we have, let's take a look at these. We have these Mongolic languages. Do we have a nice map? Yes. Okay, so, wow, look at that. So, yeah, this is an interesting language here that we have, you know, oh, this map looks like it's from German, so it's Mongolish, German map. But we have this main, this is the country of Mongolia, and the main area, and I guess, yeah, this sort of dashed area is the area of Mongolia, the area within the country of China that also has Mongolian speakers, whereas this like solid green is the country of Mongolia. And so there's the main Mongolian language, and then there's these related languages. Interesting how it goes all the way out. I mean, I had no idea there was one all the way in Iran here. Or Afghanistan, on the edge of Afghanistan and Iran. And here's one up in the Caspian in southern Russia. And so seemingly maybe leftovers from like the Mongol Empire could even be, right? I think it is. It's called Mongol from way out there. Very interesting how that could be a survivor from centuries ago, the Mongol Empire. And this little pocket of a Mongolic language survives. Very interesting. But here we see that Dagur is also interesting because we see it sort of on towards the east here, sort of, it's like the easternmost of these Mongolic languages, deep within here this Manchuria region of China. But it survives as a Mongolic language. Okay. So let's take a look at Dagur. We also have, there's an ethnic group, the Dagur. So you can see Dagur and Dagur. These would be the same. Of course, you see Dagur, Dagur. The G can sometimes disappear, but these are the Dagur people. Okay, so there's a bit in Mongolia and Russia. We look at this box for the core information. We see the spelling here. This is in the Cyrillic alphabet, so the Russian-based alphabet. And then these are two different romanizations or ways to write it. Oh no, these are two different dialects. Yeah, two different areas. Okay. Daur Usugu. is the pronunciation. Okay. Probably means language, right? Because often language names say like the people name and then language. So you have the Dagur, or that's the Dagur people, and then Usuhu. I'm going to guess that means language, or maybe it means a particular area here. Okay, so this region, yeah. Okay, and this is an important number, of course, to look at for any language, is the number of native speakers. So last time we looked at a language that had under 10, and so that's critically endangered. But here we have 91,000. So this enters, they're calling it definitely endangered. Whereas you see here, if you have like the VU, your language is vulnerable. So there's a thought that there may be some danger. But once you get to DE here, definitely endangered. But nowhere near the critical end, because still 91,000 people. It seems like a lot. It's certainly not on the edge of extinction, but it still is. It's not easy to keep a community of 91,000 or 91,000 speakers going. There's going to be a lot of pressure for young people to switch, and families who are teaching their children or raising children to switch to one of the dominant languages around that have millions of speakers. So there's very strong pressures everywhere in the world to move towards the top dominant languages with many millions of speakers. And so anything that's that small does face some threat. Okay. And another good thing to look at in this language box, the quick facts box, is the language family. So often you see like very deep family, classification, the taxonomy. But here you can see it's just one branch below Mongolic. So that's what we saw, the purple branch. So there's the Mongolic family, it's like Mongol-related languages, and then this is one major branch of that family. And you can see it's been written with many different scripts. Of course, there's the Latin, we have the Mongol script, and then the Cyrillic, which is the Russian script, and then the Manchu script used in the once used. Of course, this is in the Manchuria area, where the Manchu language and script were once strong, although now almost completely disappeared. Okay, so let's see what we can learn from Wikipedia. Yes, I enjoy just looking at Wikipedia articles, seeing what's going on, learning about things that I had no idea about. What do we have here? So we have distribution. Well, of course, different dialects. So we see this every time we have a language, and that's, it's an issue when we're defining languages, like what is a language? You may have heard the expression, a language is a dialect with an army. The idea that if you have some kind of a state, some kind of a country, some kind of an organization that promotes that language, promotes that dialect, it becomes a language. And often the things that we think of as being languages are really like the chosen prestige dialects of particular languages. Like we think, French is like the standard French of like based on the Parisian dialect, but there's many other dialects, and of course same with English. So we have, of course, often these dialects are just named after different regions, because really it's very, unless you have like mass media, mass communications that are able to maintain a standard language over a wide area, and that's usually only major languages that are going to have that kind of spread of mass media, mass communication, standardization. These kind of languages, these kind of more local languages, these more niche languages, they tend to mostly be spoken and used in personal, family environments, not so much the professional environments. And so there's not this same way to have this, and also not as much like in broadcasting. So there's much less standardization and normalization across wide areas. So this tends to be kind of like the default baseline of how languages work is every region has its own dialect. And you can just go down to individual valleys, individual villages, and little regions. They each get their own version. Okay, but we're now going to go into looking for, when you look at one dialect to focus on, it's usually the one that has maybe the biggest population concentration, the one that's connected to the biggest city, and sort of gets singled out as being the representative dialect. But always there's going to be some variation. Now it's always interesting to hear that it has peculiar phonology. It has labialized. In some cases went labialized, like swar versus sar, while sometimes went palatalized. Okay. Okay. Yeah, a lot of little details here. Let's look at the charts. This is a lot easier to get a sense of the overall shape. Okay, first we have a vowel length contrast, right? So we have each of these vowels has a pair between the regular or short and then the long. All of them. So we have a 6 vowel system with long and short contrast to make 12 vowels total. It's like your standard 5 vowels. So you have E, U, A, O, and then A, which is sometimes considered central rather than back, but here they put it under back. So you have your 2 high vowels, E, O, your 2 mids, your high vowels, E, U, mid vowels, A, O, and then your low vowel, A. So that's a very, very common system. And then you add in this middle, the mid vowel, strong basic system, very common vowel system. And with the length contrast, it's a fair number of contrasts are there. Now we get to the consonants, and that's a lot of consonants. So we're definitely a fair number of consonants here. And I can see what they're saying. It's easier to see on the chart than reading in the paragraphs as they described it. But this does stand out that we have these multiple series. So you have t, tw, and t. You have these 3 sets for these consonants, d, dw, dy, rather than just t and d, right? You have these 3 different versions. Labialized, meaning you have lip rounding as part of it, and palatalized, meaning that your tongue is kind of moving towards the top of your mouth, the palate, and it makes kind of a y sound. Well, and even you see it here in the labials as well, moi, mia. Yeah, so I think it is quite unusual for languages to have this 3-way set, right? They have many languages have the labialized with the little w, many have palatalized with the little j, but to have both is quite a set here. So, and even a little bit of spread into the fricatives. Hua and hia. Yeah, so that's a lot of obstruents, meaning your stops and fricatives. And it's interesting to see how the labialized and palatalized contrasts are so strong. They're also appearing on the nasal, at least only for M. Nua, nua. Yeah, I guess, you don't have nua, because I guess that just becomes moi. Because it's kind of, it's kind of hard to say nua. You just make it moi here. Okay, but they have nya. Okay. And so you mean your standard nasals, M, N, Eng, but here, because of these extra labialized and palatalized sets, you're getting a lot more contrast, a lot more sounds to learn. Otherwise, we actually have a trill, r, and ria, a palatalized trill. I'm not saying that very well. Unusual. I've never seen palatalized trill. Interesting. And then lateral. So you have L and R. Get a nice trilled R in this language. Most languages don't use the trilled R. They might use a tap R, like da, But this r, it looks like, you know, this language gets the full trill going. And then you have usual y's and was. Okay, so yeah, fair number of sounds going on here. Okay, we have writing systems. We can see we have different ways to write, and this extra layer of writing on top of your, you layer it on top of the natural language, and you can do it in many different ways. Just like it's like building, you know, writing systems are engineered versus spoken languages that are natural and unconscious. So, of course, you have the IPA is the one that you learn this one alphabet and it works for every language. So that's the standard, but because IPA can be very awkward to use for particular languages, when you're working on particular languages, you know, they usually develop a system, often based on Latin, but sometimes here we're using Cyrillic. This because of its, you know, Mongolia, its close connection to Russia, and the history there with the Soviet Union and Russia. So the Cyrillic is also a choice there. Okay. Grammar. Yeah, it's giving a lot of various facts. Like you see, like each of these language articles is written differently, and you know, it's Wikipedia. Anybody can edit this, and there's a lot of variation in how these language articles are written. So here it's just giving a whole bunch of different facts. It probably could be organized a bit better. Like it's easier if it was sort of had clearer headings. Like this is, they're saying some interesting things about the pronouns, something about the cases. Okay, interesting. Let's see if anything stands out. Okay, so we can see that this has different cases. And so we have, instead of saying something like of the book, you say book A. You put this ending onto the noun, meaning of. It's like the genitive case. Right, this thing that we accomplish in English with preposition like of. They use this A. What else do we have? Yeah, lots of different endings. And see, that can be challenging for learners, second language learners, that you have to learn all these different endings depending on the shape of the word you're attaching to. If you want to get this of meaning, you know, sometimes you attach A, E, ye. Accusative is same as genitive. Interesting. That's like when you have like an object, like I see you, and then the you would get the accusative case. Locative meaning on. Okay, so this is a case where, you know, instead of adding a word like on, you just add the D at the end of the word. And you have some other ones like with or using, instrumental. Yeah, so a fair different number of cases here. Oh, and here it's for my, talking about my or our or your. We have these endings. So mini means mine. So instead of saying my stuff, you would say stuff mini of mine. Okay, so, and then for verbs, so a lot of these different verb forms here. Yeah, this is like probably a bit too much information because by getting the full tables here. Different tenses, here's for the future. The past, and again you get this subject verb agreement where you see here like first person singular, meaning I do something. So you see this, all these are first person, this is first person singular, and then you attach these markers on the verb. And yeah, one thing that was mentioned above here, and here you see it as well, is the difference between the first person plural exclusive and inclusive. So it's exclusive versus inclusive we. This is an interesting feature that many languages have, missing in English. So in English, when we say we or us, it could mean me, the speaker, and you, the listener. That's inclusive we. But it could also mean me, the speaker, and other people that I'm talking about, but not you, the listener. So, we, I could say like, we have been invited to this event. Well, am I including you or not? Am I saying we as in me and other people, or am I saying me and you? So that's a distinction that is completely lost in English. Like, we have no way of simply saying that. We'd have to kind of like explain it using more words. But in many languages, including here, right, if you want to say, you're invited to, you could say wada, but if it's just us, you say wa at the end. Okay, so we get a bunch more. Lots of different adverbs. So these are adverb suffixes. So you add, see the little hyphen there means like you kind of plug them into a word, probably a verb, because these are adverbs. They describe the verb. And so you can add all these different endings to your verbs in order to get these different meanings. Wuter. You say if you do something wueter, you do it wueter, it's like you will do it as soon as you're ready. Okay, so yeah, it's interesting that you can add all these different kind of like nuances. You can add them to your verb, like tla, like do it tla. It's like saying it's a good choice to do it. Okay. You get your table pronoun table with all the different case versions. So you say like first person singular. This is like I. This is like my. And this is like, to me, right? And then, and so on. Oh, no, sorry. This is I, and this is of me. But that is my, of course, yeah, of me, saying like, it is, this is the table of me. It would be a funny way of saying my table. Okay, so that's the genitive of. Okay, so. Yeah, so we have the vocabulary. Interesting. Now, we know that it's a Mongolic language, but, that doesn't mean that all the vocabulary comes from its own language family, because a lot of words are going to be borrowed across language family lines. And you see that in English where I believe it's around only 25% roughly, I believe, of English words actually come from a Germanic origin, even though we're certainly a Germanic language genetically, that's our language family, but or branch of our language family, but over half of our words, come through either French or Latin from another branch. And so here we have half the vocabulary Mongolic. Oh, interesting. 5 to 10% from Chinese. That's very interesting. Yeah, so it's really being there and deep with it, inside the borders of China. It's absorbing a lot of words from Chinese. 10% from Manchu, which is interesting because that was a big language of that northeastern China, Manchuria, and it's a language connected with the Qing dynasty, the last imperial dynasty of China. And so it's kind of like it had its time as being a major language, but now it's almost completely extinct. And then, of course, you get Russian, and then Evenki. Oh, this is a Siberian language. Yeah, interesting that. So it's really, and then its own. Yeah, so this is very interesting that this language really has quite a blend of different sources in its vocabulary. You can see, it contains some old Mongolic words, so leftovers. So, words change over time, but then you sometimes see these relics that kind of survive surprisingly from earlier times. Mongolic numbers, so you can count. Neke Hoyer Guarbe. Okay. And that's it. That's what we see. Get some more links. So, some interesting information. Dagur. So, yeah, there's a language that I never would have imagined existing. I had no idea this language existed for this point, but there it is. This language of 90,000 speakers out there in Manchuria. The